start. Hi, I'm Claire and I'm going to talk to you today about sudden cardiac death. So why it's important, what are the causes of it, and what I'm doing as my role as a cardiologist in trying to improve our understanding of it. So why is it important? Well, actually it's a leading cause of death worldwide. In the US, it's second only to all cancers combined. And if we look at these figures down here, this shows if you have a cardiac arrest, you are likely to die. The survival rate is 5% in the US, and that drops to less than 1% worldwide. So should you be worried? Are you going to die? So 80% of people who get sudden cardiac death actually have coronary artery disease. So they have furred up arteries and they get heart attacks and they die. However, this leaves 20% of people who are often young and otherwise fit and healthy. And in fact, we know that athletes are at particularly high risk of sudden cardiac death. There have been several quite high-profile cases, most recently of Fabrice Muamba. And actually, at the weekend in the London Marathon, a 30-year-old woman died in the last mile of running the marathon. However, sudden cardiac death can affect anyone doing anything. This is a poster from the Cardiac Risk in the Young charity showing that 12 young people die every week in the UK of sudden cardiac death. So what causes sudden cardiac death in otherwise normal hearts? So the key thing is the propagation of electricity from the pacemaker region of the heart to the main chambers of the heart to allow the synchronized contraction of the heartbeat. And this happens through charged particles called ions travelling across the membrane of the cell through the so-called ion channels. And if you have problems with your ion channels, then it's likely that you're going to get problems with the way the electrical activation goes across the heart. So this is a computer simulation, and so what should happen is you get this coordinated wavefront going from bottom to top. However, we can see here that the wavefront is broken up, and now it's all disorganised, and this is called ventricular fibrillation, and if this carries on for more than a minute, you're likely to get sudden cardiac death. A lot of the problems with the ion channels are caused by genetic mutations and therefore are inherited. So how is my research helping with this? So I'm looking at a particular inherited form of sudden cardiac death called Brugada Syndrome, and I have a genetically modified mouse that mimics the disease that we see in humans. And by measuring the electrical activity in the heart, both from the outside of the heart and also directly on the surface of the heart, I can get a lot of information about how the electricity spreads through the heart and also about the recovery of the heart tissue at the end of each heartbeat. Furthermore, I can actually isolate the individual heart cells and measure the currents that are going through the ion channels. And even further than that, I can actually isolate the ion channels themselves and look at the relative abundance of these ion channels in the various parts of the heart. And if I put all of these results together, I've shown that Brugada syndrome is caused by reduced function of the sodium ion channels in the heart, and that causes both abnormal conduction of electricity through the heart and abnormal recovery of the heart tissue at the end of the heartbeat. And that can lead to abnormal electrical feedback loops happening, as we saw in that computer simulation, and that leads to arrhythmias. So why is this research useful? Well, first of all, by characterising the key elements of the abnormal conduction, we can transfer this to patients and therefore assess the risk of these patients of actually getting sudden cardiac death, and hence determine which is the best treatment option for them. And particularly to decide who needs to have a defibrillator implanted, which can shock them if they get a fatal arrhythmia. Now, second of all, although these defibrillators have saved countless lives of people who have these conditions, they're not without their problems, because they have a high rate of infection, they often go off when they're not meant to, and they are incredibly expensive. So my research forms one step on a pathway to try to find some new drug treatments for these diseases, which would really revolutionise the lives of sufferers. Thank you very much.